Welcome to LFP Talks, Face It, Fix It. Over the past several months, we've worked on an unprecedented newsroom project examining London's biggest social issues: homelessness, unemployment, street-level addiction, and how all three can be perilously interconnected.
I've said this a lot, and I'll say it again. We're the local newspaper. We can be loud, for better or worse. We can be loud, but we're not experts and we don't have answers. And so we want you to tell us what to be loud about next coming out of this. I think this night is not for naught. It will be interesting, but it will be for naught if we don't get somewhere, at least some short next step.
Free Press reached out to us based on the community reaction to the explosions on Woodman. The OEV community really showed an intense amount of support. It was quite incredible to witness. The morning after the explosion, people we've never met, people we've seen every day, and people from all over London and surrounding areas came together with literally truckloads of supplies, and we viewed it as how easy London can really come together when they want to, and when it's needed. As soon as it's your neighbor, you're going to jump on it.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the London Free Press for affording this opportunity to bring our community together to talk about what I like to say are London's wicked problems. What's a wicked problem? It's something that's just wicked, something that we can't seem to move and change. And I think that we can all agree that we have some very pressing and wicked problems facing us. But since I did retire, I've noticed an incredible worsening of what I would think is a real crisis in our community, a crisis of homelessness, poverty, mental health and addictions, and in particular, a crisis of our humanity. I would ask you to just stop and think for a moment and to go inside and reflect. As you drive down the street and you're encountering people sitting or standing on the meridian asking for handouts, or as you're walking by people who are huddling in between buildings, or as you're seeing people lying on the pavement, in your heart of hearts, what would you like to do? What do you wish that you could change for that individual? If you could just step out of your comfort zone, or if you could do something, what would that be?
In some cases, patients in our care have no reasonable prospect for discharge from hospital. They have no place to call home and no appropriate level of sustainable support in the community. Therefore, are continuing to occupy a specialty bed at Parkwood Institute, despite no longer needing active treatment or rehabilitation, rendering that bed unavailable to others in need. Even with our current level of collaborative community partnerships, two issues are in focus, as Susan alluded to: lack of supportive, affordable housing to meet the growing demand, and increasing need for more intensive community support once patients are no longer in hospital. Compounding these challenges is the fact that social and health supports are funded by multiple ministries, including municipal governments, resulting in lack of coordination.
I watched that video and I started to cry because they are my brothers and sisters and they remind me of where I came from. I started addiction when I was very, very young, and I went to a residential school, and I graduated from the residential school, and I continued to drink. And because of my thirst for the alcohol, I would get into an apartment, and I would lose that apartment because of my drinking. I lost jobs because of my drinking. Nobody knew that I was suffering from bipolar or ADHD. I didn't even know. And I just kept on self-medicating myself. I would couch surf with friends from outdoors, and I lived outside. And I watched those videos. And I stand here in front of you proud. I want to acknowledge my sister's place. I don't know how I got there, but that day, it was the best day of my life. they helped me get in an apartment. And I stayed there for 13 years. I got clean. I got 19 years sobriety. Thank you. I'm grateful for my sister's place, for Susan McPhail, for Rita Van Everett. I'm sorry, it's... Today, I'm proud to be able to announce myself in my language. I've never stepped foot on my community in Saskatchewan, but someday I promise each and every one of you, I will go to my home and I will learn my own language. But I want to thank this panel. I want to thank everybody here that want to make change for my brothers and sisters, to take them off the streets, to give them the mental health that they need, a safe place to live. With all that, in my language, I say Kanalukwa, which means I love you all. Oh.
So I've been asked to speak about changing culture and attitudes, but I'm actually going to start with talking about changing language. Because I believe that how we describe a problem dictates how we think about solutions. And so to start, I want to talk about the word vulnerable that we've heard a lot tonight. So we've been talking about vulnerable people, but I really want to reflect on the definition of that word, which is a person in need of special care and support. And when we're calling somebody vulnerable, we're saying that they need our help and intervention and protection. And we often make an assumption that people are vulnerable because of intrinsic factors to that person that have led them to be wherever, in whatever situation that we're helping them out of. But I'd argue that the people that we see sleeping on our streets are not vulnerable, they are marginalized. My patients aren't vulnerable. My patients are resilient people who have been marginalized by capitalism, stigma, classism, racism, and colonialism. If we want to call my patients vulnerable, we need to also accept that the rest of us have had an active role in making them that way by structuring our society in a way that makes it morally acceptable to have a whole cohort of people without access to things that we all take for granted, things that should be really considered human rights, like housing and income and food security and appropriate health care. But in addition to our emotional support, we need to be willing to pony up the resources, not because we are kind people, but because every resident in the city deserves it.
And I believe in social housing. I believe, you know, if the politicians put the funding to affordable housing, they will actually get rebates from other parts of our community, regarding the hospital, regarding the drug use. And, you know, sometimes you don't see the trees for the forest, right? So we make